She smirked. "After the divorce, I'm taking the house, the car, and half your savings." I said, "You can try." She didn't know I'd already moved every dollar to a trust she couldn't touch. When the court called her claim invalid, her smile vanished instantly. I'm 29, work in commercial real estate, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had the perfect marriage. My name's irrelevant, but my ex-wife's attitude isn't. Let's call her Claire. We'd been married for 4 years, together for 7 total. No kids, thank God, though we'd talked about it plenty. I made good money, around $180,000 a year, and Claire worked part-time as a marketing consultant, making maybe $35,000. She always said she wanted to focus on building our home, and I stupidly thought that meant she cared about us. Looking back now, there were signs. Small things I brushed off because I wanted to believe we were solid. She'd started going to the gym more frequently around January, 5 times a week, sometimes 6. She'd come home energized, glowing, talking about her new trainer and how he was really pushing her limits. I thought it was great. I was proud of her for prioritizing her health. She'd also become protective of her phone, keeping it face down on tables, taking it to the bathroom, sleeping with it under her pillow. When I mentioned it once, she laughed and said I was being paranoid, that she just didn't want work emails disturbing us. I believed her because that's what you do when you love someone. You trust them until they give you a reason not to. The unraveling started on a Tuesday night in July. I came home early from a site inspection because the client had to reschedule. It was around 6:30 p.m., and Claire's car was in the driveway along with a black Audi I didn't recognize. I walked in through the garage, heard laughter coming from upstairs, her laugh, and a man's voice I'd never heard before. My stomach dropped, but I kept walking. Their bedroom door was half open. I saw enough in 3 seconds to understand everything. They were in our bed, the one we'd picked out together at some overpriced furniture store in Costa Mesa, the one where we'd spent lazy Sunday mornings talking about our future. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there until Claire noticed me in the doorway. Her face went white, then red. The guy, some tattooed personal trainer type wearing gym shorts and nothing else, scrambled for his clothes. I said one thing: "Get out of my house." He didn't argue, didn't try to explain or apologize. He grabbed his shirt and shoes and practically ran down the stairs. I heard the front door slam 30 seconds later. Claire tried the tears immediately, but they felt rehearsed, like she'd been preparing for this moment. "It just happened," she said, sitting on the edge of our bed in a robe, her voice cracking. "I was lonely. You're always working." I laughed, actually laughed. The absurdity of it hit me all at once. The excuses, the blame shifting, the predictability of it all. "How long?" 2 months, maybe 3. "Try again." She bit her lip, looked down at her hands. 6. It's been 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of lies. I thought about our anniversary in March, the weekend trip to Santa Barbara, where she'd told me she loved me more than ever. I thought about the morning she'd kissed me goodbye before I left for work, knowing she'd be texting him the moment I drove away. I nodded slowly, grabbed my phone, and walked out. I didn't pack a bag. I just got in my car and drove. I slept in a hotel that night, a Marriott near the airport, sterile and anonymous. Didn't answer her calls. By morning, I had 15 texts and 4 voicemails, all variations of "we can fix this" and "don't throw away what we have." That phrase kept repeating, what we have. Not who we are, not our love, not our marriage. What we have. Material things. Stability. The life I'd built that she'd been enjoying. Update 1. I contacted a divorce attorney the next day. His name was Richard Chen, late 50s, divorced twice himself, sharp as hell with a reputation for winning difficult cases. His office was in Newport Beach, all glass and steel, overlooking the harbor. I sat across from him in a leather chair and laid out everything: the affair, the financials, the house we'd bought 2 years ago in Irvine that was in both our names, the joint savings account with over $350,000, the retirement accounts, the cars. I drove a paid-off Tesla Model S. Claire drove a leased BMW X3 I'd been covering at $680 a month. Richard listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and asked me a simple question. Do you want to be fair, or do you want to be smart? What's the difference? Fair means you split things down the middle and move on. You'll lose about half of everything, pay her spousal support for a few years, and she'll walk away with enough to start fresh while you rebuild. Smart means you protect what you built before she decides to take you for everything. It's more complicated, more aggressive, but it's legal and it works. I thought about the 6 months of lies, the nights she'd kissed me after being with him, the anniversary dinner at that expensive Italian place where she'd held my hand across the table and talked about trying for a baby while carrying on an affair behind my back. I thought about how she'd looked at me in that doorway. Not sorry, just caught. Smart, I said. Definitely smart. Richard smiled. Not a warm smile, but a knowing one. Good. Here's what we're going to do. He walked me through the options. California's a community property state, which meant anything acquired during the marriage gets split 50-50, unless there's a prenup or separate property documentation. We didn't have a prenup. I'd been too in love and too naive at 25 to think I needed one. But Richard had a strategy. He suggested I move liquid assets into an irrevocable family trust before she could file. My parents were still alive, both in their early 60s, living in Portland. We could establish a trust with them as co-beneficiaries and successor trustees, transfer the funds legally, and as long as it was positioned as legitimate estate planning and family asset protection, it would hold up in court. She'll fight it, Richard warned. Her attorney will claim you're hiding assets, that it's a fraudulent transfer, that you're trying to cheat her out of her fair share. Let her fight. It'll get ugly. It's already ugly. Over the next 2 weeks, I moved fast. I consulted with an estate planning attorney Richard recommended, a guy named Philip Hartman who specialized in high-net-worth divorces. Together, we drafted the trust documents, established the framework with my parents as co-beneficiaries, and positioned it as multi-generational wealth protection. My parents were hesitant at first. They didn't want to be involved in marital drama. But when I explained what Claire had done and what she was likely to demand, they agreed. I moved $340,000 from our joint savings into the trust. I kept $25,000 in the joint account, so it didn't look completely drained, so she wouldn't immediately panic and file before I was ready. I documented everything meticulously. Her affair, the guy's name, turned out to be Derek Matthews, 32, a personal trainer at Equinox. Timestamps from our home security cameras showing him entering and leaving the house on at least 14 separate occasions over 6 months, always when I was at work. I even found Venmo transactions where she'd been sending him money, $150 here, $200 there, labeled with heart emojis and inside jokes. My money, technically, since hers barely covered her personal expenses and lease payment. Claire didn't notice the money moving. She was too busy trying to win me back. She cooked dinners I didn't eat, left handwritten notes on my pillow when I came by the house to grab clothes, even suggested couples therapy with some therapist her friend recommended. I stayed at the hotel for the first week, then moved into a short-term rental in Costa Mesa. I stayed silent, stayed cold. By the 3rd week, her tone changed. The apologies stopped. The anger started. Update 2. She filed first. I got served papers at my office on a Thursday afternoon in early August. The process server walked right into our conference room during a client meeting, asked if I was me, and handed me the envelope in front of everyone. Professional humiliation, courtesy of Claire. Her demands were laid out clearly in the petition: the house, her car, which I'd been paying for, half of all savings and retirement accounts, and spousal support for 3 years while she rebuilt her career. The kicker? She claimed I'd been emotionally abusive and neglectful throughout the marriage, creating a hostile environment that justified her needing more support to recover. She painted herself as a victim who'd been driven to infidelity by my coldness and obsession with work. I called Richard immediately. She's going for everything, and she's lying about abuse. Expected. Let her think she's winning. Discovery's going to be fun. When Claire's attorney, a woman named Diane Foster, who had a reputation as a shark, requested financial disclosures, we handed over everything. Well, almost everything. The trust wasn't hidden. It was declared properly in the disclosures as a family estate planning vehicle established for multi-generational wealth protection. But Diane clearly hadn't done the homework on what could and couldn't be touched in California divorce law. She assumed it would be split like everything else. I spent the next month gathering evidence. I pulled Claire's iCloud backup. She'd never changed the password from the one we'd set up together years ago, and found months of texts between her and Derek. Explicit messages, plans to meet up, even discussions about me. He's clueless, she'd written in one message. Works all the time, barely notices I'm gone. Easy. In another, can't wait to be done with this and move on with you. Derek had responded with promises, talking about them getting a place together once everything was settled. I also discovered she'd been using our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms. 6 different occasions. Always the same Hilton near Derek's apartment, charged to the account I paid off every month. She hadn't even tried to hide it. The first mediation session happened in mid-September at a conference room in downtown Santa Ana. Claire showed up in a new dress, hair professionally done, makeup perfect. She sat across from me with Diane, and for the first 20 minutes, she wouldn't make eye contact. But when Diane started talking numbers, when she started laying out what Claire expected to walk away with, Claire looked at me and smirked. That same smirk she'd had when I'd caught her, like she'd already won. Diane laid it out systematically. My client is entitled to 50% of all marital assets, including the savings account, the house, and reasonable spousal support given the significant disparity in income and the emotional toll this marriage has taken on her. Richard didn't miss a beat. He smiled, that same knowing smile from our first meeting, and opened his folder. About that savings account. My client moved those funds into an irrevocable family trust for estate planning purposes 3 weeks ago. It's no longer a marital asset subject to community property division. The room went silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming. Claire's head snapped toward me, her eyes wide. You did what? Estate planning, I said calmly, looking directly at her. My parents are getting older. We're protecting family assets for future generations. It's perfectly legal and properly documented. Diane's face tightened, her jaw clenching. We'll challenge that. Asset concealment and fraudulent transfer are serious allegations, and the court doesn't look kindly on. Not what this is, Richard interrupted smoothly. The trust was established transparently, declared in all financial disclosures, serves a legitimate legal purpose, verified by independent estate planning counsel, and complies with all California statutes regarding family asset protection. You're welcome to challenge it, Ms. Foster, but you'll lose, and you'll waste your client's time and money in the process. Claire's smirk was gone. Her face had gone pale. Her voice shook when she spoke. That's not fair. That's my money too. I helped build that life. I was there. You were there. I cut her off, my voice level. You were in our bed with someone else. You were spending our money on hotel rooms. You were lying to me for 6 months while planning your exit strategy. So no, Claire, it's not your money. Not anymore. Diane tried to regain control, but the mediation was effectively over. We agreed to reconvene after both sides reviewed the trust documents, but Richard and I both knew how it would end. Update 3. The court hearing was scheduled for late October. In the weeks leading up to it, Claire tried everything. She called me crying at 2 a.m., saying she'd made a terrible mistake, that Derek meant nothing, that it was just physical, and she'd never stopped loving me. She said we could start over if I stopped being vindictive and cruel. When that didn't work, she tried anger. She showed up at my apartment one night around 9 p.m., banging on the door hard enough that my neighbors came out to look. She was screaming that I'd ruined her life, that I owed her, that she'd given me the best years of her youth and I was throwing her away like garbage. I recorded the whole thing on my phone through the peephole, added it to the file, called building security. They escorted her out. Her parents called me, too. Her father left a voicemail saying I was being unreasonable and vindictive, that their daughter had made a mistake, but I was destroying her future out of spite. Her mother sent a long email about forgiveness and Christian values. I didn't respond to either. As the court date approached, Diane tried multiple angles. She filed motions arguing that moving the money was proof of financial abuse, that I'd isolated Claire from marital assets, that the trust was a sham designed solely to avoid community property obligations. Richard countered with the affair evidence, the texts we'd pulled from her iCloud backup, the security footage showing Derek entering and leaving our house, the credit card statements for the hotel rooms, the Venmo receipts, Derek's social media posts where he'd tagged locations and posted photos that matched exactly with times Claire had told me she was working late or having dinner with her sister. We also included character witnesses. My boss submitted a letter describing my work ethic and character. Two of our mutual friends, people who'd known us as a couple, submitted statements saying Claire had confided in them about the affair months ago and had expressed no remorse, only frustration that I worked too much. The judge was a woman named Judith Ramirez, mid-50s, no nonsense, with a reputation for being fair but unsympathetic to affairs and deception. She'd been on the bench for 15 years and had seen every trick in the book. The hearing took 3 hours. Diane argued passionately that I'd manipulated the system, that the trust was established in bad faith, that Claire deserved her fair share after 4 years of marriage. Richard calmly walked Judge Ramirez through the timeline, the trust's legitimate purpose, the proper legal documentation, the affair evidence, the financial infidelity. Judge Ramirez reviewed everything in silence, asking occasional pointed questions. Then she made her ruling. The trust is valid and serves a legitimate estate planning purpose. The establishment of the trust, while strategically timed, does not constitute fraudulent transfer or asset concealment under California law. The funds are not subject to division as marital assets. Mrs. last name is entitled to half of the remaining joint account balance, which amounts to $12,500. The house will be sold and proceeds will be split equally after outstanding mortgage balance and associated fees. No spousal support is awarded given the documented infidelity and the relatively short duration of the marriage. Mrs. last name's claims of emotional abuse are unsupported by evidence and appear to be a litigation strategy rather than genuine allegations. Claire's face crumpled. She put her head in her hands. Diane tried to argue, requested a reconsideration, but Judge Ramirez was done. This matter is concluded. The court will issue the formal order within 14 days. Outside the courthouse, Claire caught up to me on the steps. Her eyes were red, mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her voice was hoarse. "You destroyed me," she said. "I have nothing now, nothing. Are you happy?" "No," I replied honestly. "I'm not happy. I'm just done being your safety net." "I loved you," she said, and maybe she believed it in that moment. "You loved what I provided." There's a difference. She tried to say something else, her mouth opening and closing, but no words came out. I walked away and didn't look back. Final update. It's been 2 months since the divorce finalized in early December. The house sold quickly. We'd bought in a good neighborhood, and the market was still strong. After the mortgage payoff and realtor fees, we each walked away with about $87,000. Claire took her half and disappeared for a while. I heard through mutual friends that she moved in with Derek about 3 weeks after the divorce. That lasted exactly 19 days before he kicked her out. Apparently, he wasn't thrilled about supporting someone with no money, no job prospects, and a ton of emotional baggage. The trainer who'd been so eager to sleep with a married woman suddenly wasn't interested in dealing with the reality of her situation. Last I heard from a friend who ran into her mother at Trader Joe's, Claire moved back with her parents in Scottsdale, Arizona. She's working retail at some boutique, trying to rebuild her life from scratch. Her social media went dark. No more gym selfies, no more inspirational quotes, no more photos of expensive brunches I'd been funding. I bought a smaller condo downtown, a 2-bedroom place with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city. I like the simplicity of it. No memories attached to the walls, no ghosts in the corners. I've been dating casually, nothing serious yet, but I'm in no rush. I've been working out more, picked up golf again, reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the marriage. The trust remains intact. My parents and I are co-managing it, and it'll serve its intended purpose, protecting family wealth across generations, eventually helping with their retirement and providing security for whatever future I build. I don't feel guilty. Some people think I went too far, that I should have just split things fairly and moved on like an adult. My sister said I was cold and calculating. A cousin told me I let bitterness win. But fairness is subjective. She had 6 months to come clean, 6 months to stop lying, 6 months to show me even a shred of respect or basic human decency. She chose herself every single time, chose her pleasure over our vows, chose deception over honesty. I chose me when it mattered. I protected what I'd built, what I'd earned, what I'd saved, and I'd do it again. Edit 1. For those asking, yes, the trust was completely legal. I consulted 2 separate attorneys before moving forward, and everything was documented properly. Estate planning is not the same as hiding assets, especially when it's disclosed in financial statements and serves a legitimate legal purpose. Edit 2. Derek reached out last week through Instagram DM asking if I had any hard feelings and whether we could talk man to man. I blocked him immediately. Some questions don't deserve answers, and some people don't deserve your time. Edit 3. To everyone saying I should have tried therapy or given her another chance, I respect that perspective, but 6 months of calculated lies isn't a mistake. It's a choice. She chose that life. I chose to protect mine.